You confronted CNN's Christine Amanpour about the misinformation that she spread on CIA waterboarding.
That's
Are
right.
there any other journalists that you think should be confronted about misinformation they've spread on that topic?
Well, there's been a lot of misinformation spread, and a lot of them are it's more out of ignorance than malice. And the part of the problem has been is that when I was in the Bush administration and I wrote President Bush's speech in September 2006, describing this tech program for the first time, I was given access to a lot of intelligence. I was given access to the actual interrogators, the real Jack Bowers, the man who waterboarded Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and the people who questioned him and got information. And so I was aware of the techniques that were used, which we didn't publicly describe, and also the intelligence they produced. And so these leaks would come out, and people would say the most terrible things about comparing us to the Khmer Rouge and to the Imperial Japanese and so on. And we couldn't respond because the answers were classified. If we described how the techniques were really used, that would help the terrorists resist them. So basically, the critics have had the field to themselves for the last 5 years. And now with this book, for the first time, we're coming back and explaining to the American people the truth about what happened. Basically, what you need to know is that everything you have heard in the mainstream press about how we interrogated terrorists, what intelligence it produced, is wrong. We did not torture terrorists. The techniques were lawful and restrained, and they produced intelligence that stopped a series of terrorist attacks. And the interrogator who waterboarded Khalid Sheikh Mohammed told me if it wasn't for this program, there would have been another 9/11.
How surprised were you as you began researching for this book? I mean, how has your positions changed?
Well, I have to say, I was never opposed to the CIA interrogation program, but I was skeptical when I first heard about it. And there's two reasons for that. One, I'm a Roman Catholic, and it had to be more than just effective for me. It had to be moral, and I had to be convinced of that. And second of all, my mother was a prisoner of war. My mother's from Warsaw, Poland, and she grew up during the Nazi occupation of Warsaw, and she joined the resistance when she was a 15-year-old girl in Warsaw and fought in the Warsaw Uprising, which liberated the Polish capital from the Nazis for a brief period. And she was part of a military that carried its arms openly, wore uniforms, and followed the laws of war. And she was captured, and when she surrendered, she was taken prisoner and went to a POW camp. So the Geneva Conventions, the 1929 Geneva Conventions, the earlier ones, protected her. So I believe in the Geneva Conventions. I believe that we have to follow certain moral guidelines, Judeo-Christian principles when we interrogate people. And as I studied this, as I was exposed to the intelligence, as I learned how they had stopped attacks and learned the techniques that were used, it became very clear to me that one, these techniques were necessary, that they were the only way we were going to get this information, and it saved literally thousands of lives. And second, that they were moral. That there is nothing that, as a Christian, I had nothing to be embarrassed. We have nothing to be ashamed of in the techniques that were used, and all these allegations of torture are false.
Thank you.